Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of eLearning Unscripted. Today we have a return guest who's Justin Seeley from Adobe, and he'll be speaking with us about experience-driven learning cultures, what learning experience truly is and its key components, as well as how it plays a major role in building organizational cultures. Let's get started. Hi, Justin. Again, it's good. It's good to see you again.
You as well. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Okay, let's dive right in because once again, we have a lot to cover in this episode. So, to kick things off, can you tell us a bit more about what learning experience is and its key components?
Yeah, I think a learning experience is really the full journey that a person goes through while they're trying to grow a skill or understand something new. It's not just a course, and I think that's something that people get confused on, the learning
Yeah.
experience of a course versus the holistic experience that people go through. It's the environment, it's the delivery, the tools, timing, the support you give afterwards. Like all of that stuff really matters. And I think at the heart of a good experience, I always like to say there are three pillars of a good experience, and that's personalization, relevance, and ease of use. So if you think about an example being like a technician in the field who needs to troubleshoot a piece of equipment that maybe isn't working properly, if they could scan a QR code and instantly get a short video or step-by-step guide tailored to whatever model of machine they're working on, that's a really strong learning experience because it's relevant, it's accessible in the moment, and it's directly tied to the task. And I think that that kind of immediacy and support is really what a modern learning experience should strive for today. Um, I'll give you a personal example. I
Yeah.
used to work at one of the big retail chains. I don't think I'm supposed to say the name, so I'll just not say the name. And I was in charge of their marketplace seller education. So these were third-party people, not employees, that were coming to sell things through this platform. And even though we had very good educational resources, we found that the usage on those resources was really low because they all existed in these siloed environments that you had to log out of where you were and go to another place and log in. Then you had to search or navigate, and it was a very poor experience. So when I got there, we aimed to build a more flexible system that offered what I called a one-stop shop approach. So yes, people who wanted that asynchronous, I want to take a course feeling could go to this platform and take a course, watch a video, read a guide, whatever, everything was in one place. So we consolidated it that way. And then two, we built it on a headless platform where we could embed learning directly into the platform sellers were using to actually create their listings. So we could embed direct links inside of tooltips. We used a chat bot where they could ask questions and direct links to training would come up. And the best part was because it was headless, that stuff could be surfaced directly from within that tool. They didn't have to leave. They could just watch the video, read the guide right there in a window. And so that made for a much better experience. And I think that that overall elevated the metrics of all of our stuff. Like NPS went through the roof, and all
Yeah.
of our we had what we called the voice of seller survey. All of that stuff was immensely helped by doing all that.
Wow. Now, I know we covered seamless a little bit, but can we dive a little bit deeper? So, what additional factors should organizations consider when they're delivering seamless learning experiences, especially for external learners, such as, customers and partners?
Yeah, the with customers and partners, the bar is really even higher than it is with your internal folks because these are people that don't work for you.
Yeah.
So, they might not be bought into your culture. If the learning is slow or confusing or irrelevant, they're really not going to stick around. Or
Yeah.
organizations should really think about how people are accessing the content, whether it matches their real needs and how it reflects on the brand. So when I was building customer ed programs, one of the first things that I would try to do is what I called the voice of the learner survey, which I took from the voice of seller survey to better understand the pain points of the learners and to get more information about how they like to learn. So I worked for one of the big social media companies back in 2020. And when I got there, the mandate was to build a platform for advertisers to learn how to use the ads platform. And if I had listened to the sales team, I would have just built a bunch of how-to videos on how to buy ads in various
Yeah.
formats. But when I spoke to the actual advertisers, they weren't confused about how to buy ads. They were confused about why they should run one ad type versus the other. So
Oh,
we had to pivot our strategy to be more value driven, where we said like, we gave them scenarios of ad type A versus ad type B, and we embedded that content within the tools that they were already using, and the results really spoke for themselves. It was a seamless experience. that they didn't have to exit where they were. They got the knowledge they needed about, okay, if I am launching a new product or I am trying to create awareness, I run this ad. If I really want click-throughs and I want somebody to buy something, I run this ad, that kind of thing. And the
Yeah.
results really spoke for themselves. We were the only, I don't want to say the only, we were one of the only major net revenue positive marketing initiatives while I was there. And we saw our NPS scores almost double from
Goodness.
doing this because we just removed the friction.
Yeah. It seems like something so straightforward, but you got to get into the mind of the learner in that case, and what
100%.
they really are looking for. It's crazy.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so now, how do you feel, in your opinion, learning technology has evolved from traditional learning management systems to learning experience platforms, since we're talking so much about experience?
The traditional LMS was really built to assign and track training. And it worked really well for doing that. It was great for compliance, but it was not built for modern use cases, or it wasn't built for engagement. Over time, we've seen the shift toward learning experience platforms or LXPs. These are designed more around the learner and not the administrator. So they pull content in from multiple sources, offer smarter recommendations, and give people more control over how and what they learn. So if you think about this in terms of how streaming services work, if someone watches a documentary on leadership, then the platform might suggest, oh, maybe you were interested in a TED Talk. Maybe you want to watch this art or watch this short video about how to do this. Or here's an article from different sources on that same topic. That's what we have to do. We have to make learning binge worthy. It's kind of the Netflix effect. If they didn't personalize that homepage as you were browsing and as you were watching things, you would have to manually search all those categories, all those things, perform searches every day to find what you're looking for, and you're probably not going to stay very long.
No.
We as a group, humans, we've been spoiled by the conveniences of these platforms and these personalized experiences in our personal lives. So it makes sense that people still want that when they come to work, and they expect it
Absolutely.
almost now for the experience to really be tailored to whatever it is they want or need to do.
Absolutely. You're totally 100% correct. Yeah. Now, in some situations, learning in a classroom setup or with an instructor virtually is helpful for learners, along with online learning. How do you think such blended learning experiences help organizations increase the effectiveness of learning? And can you share some examples with us of how blended learning is better than self-paced online learning? I know
Sure.
there's a lot of.
No problem. Yeah. So I
Okay.
think let's tackle blended learning first. So blended learning is really the best of both worlds. You get the flexibility of online classrooms with the depth and accountability of live interactions. So an example would be a leadership program where participants complete short, self-paced lessons on topics like emotional intelligence or conflict resolution. And then after that, they join a virtual session to role play those scenarios with their peers. That
Okay.
mix could really help people like internalize the skills in a way that videos and reading things on a screen simply can't do.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think another common case is customer service training. So you might have a set of e-learning modules for systems and product knowledge, followed by live coaching sessions where people handle mock calls. The knowledge sticks better in that scenario because they're applying it in context with feedback as they go. So the key is not just choosing one method over the other, but combining them intentionally to really drive that performance metric that you're wanting to drive. And I'll kind of go back to that advertiser training I spoke about before. One of the tent poles of that program when I first got there was our live in-person trainings, where we offered a one-day get your certification program inside our office. And we would bring ad agencies into the office and we would train them for a whole day or a half day. All around the country, they came to do this. But then 2020 happened and
Yeah.
we had to pivot. So we
Yeah.
still knew that there was a hunger for this, let me come in and get it all done mentality. But we also knew that people really didn't want to participate in a full day of synchronous training through Zoom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
broke it up. We offered attendees pre-work through the asynchronous classes that they had to complete prior to the in-person work. And this allowed us to really reset the baseline level of knowledge that people had before they came into the room. And then we could focus on really trying to upskill everybody with the assumption that they had done that pre-work, by giving them practice exercises, putting them into group work for role plays or whiteboarding, and really making it feel less like they were inside of a course, but more like they were on a field exercise that really seemed to resonate with people. And we saw that that program was just as popular as a blended learning experience as it was, as a standalone in person. So even when things opened back up in the late 2022 or 2023, like we kept that hybrid model because it was just so effective.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it tapped into everything: peer learning, collaborative learning, hands-on. That's awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. Now, in the last episode, we talked a lot about AI, which
Yes.
it was fascinating. Um, but can you tell us a little bit more about what is the impact of AI on learning experience, since we're talking more about that, more targeted?
Yeah, AI is quick. I think I don't say quickly because it is moving quickly, but AI is quietly, I think, becoming the backbone of what modern learning is all about.
Yeah.
It's really helping us deliver more personalized and adaptive experiences overall. And I think one example of this would be skill-based recommendations. So, based on somebody's role, their recent activity, and performance data, an AI engine can suggest the right content to help them level that up. This removes the guesswork from what they're doing, and it really helps the learner stay focused. I think another area is content creation.
Yeah.
AI tools can do, the generative AI tools can draft scripts, quizzes, even voiceovers now, which speeds up the production and allows teams to focus on their strategy and quality control. A great example of this, actually, that I've done in practice would be, you go back to that big box retailer. One of the things that they were doing when I got there was an academy that had a lot of videos in it. And when I got there, the two people that they had working on it, one did the scripts and the other one did the graphics and the voiceover. And so it was just like, if this person was behind or that person was behind, it just created a log jam. And so on a good month, you got 1 to 3 videos produced,
Oh,
if that, but it was
wow.
more like one because of all the SME interviews and delays that we had.
Yeah.
And so we made a bold decision, to switch to generative AI for the storyboards and the voiceovers. So basically, it expedited our discovery phase. So we gave the storyboards to the SMEs faster, which gave them longer to review, which is what they wanted. And then it also expedited the voiceovers, which were taking a while because, the person that was working on them, they weren't like a voice actor. They had a cool voice and we used it for that. And
Yeah.
so we wanted them to continue working on the final graphics and really focus on that. So we moved over to the generative AI. Our productivity really just skyrocketed. And on top of that, because we were using Gen AI, we were able to create more inclusive learning by diversifying the age, gender, accent,
That's
everything in our
amazing.
videos.
Yeah.
And we also used it to translate them into other languages, which expedited localization efforts for our teams that were in other countries because they didn't have a full marketing team like I had in Canada or Mexico. And so we were able to really deliver, assets to those folks in a much quicker time frame so that they weren't always playing catch up. It was a very fast follow. So the English version would launch first, then the multilingual would launch literally a week or two later. And it really made for a better experience, I think, overall, for that platform. And I think the final thing that I'll say about AI is that we're seeing a lot of movement in the AI powered chatbot space. So that agentic AI, it's
Yeah.
it's a 24-hour a day, 7 days a week learning assistant for most people. And so these tools are sitting there, they're watching in real time what you're doing. They know the context of what you're seeing, what's supposed to be happening around you, and they can offer follow-up resources. You can ask them questions, you can ask them to explain more complex concepts into simpler language. And that big shift in learning, is that, it's becoming more responsive, I think. Whereas before you take a course on, I don't know, let's say physics, and you take it and you don't understand it all, but you seem to just grease by, like you just
Yeah.
barely get by, right? Because you knew the questions, well enough to pass. Well, that's not the case anymore. Now you don't have to do that. Now you've got literally a tutor in your pocket. I know my teachers who may be listening to this always told me I'd never have a calculator in my pocket. Not only were they wrong about that, they are very wrong about me not having a full-on teacher in my pocket now, which blows my mind. But
Absolutely.
that's the case, right?
Yeah,
Like
it is.
you have access to the brains behind that course all day long. So you just ask it a question, it gives you the answer. Now, I don't think they should be used in tandem with like taking exams and things like that, but I do think in the overall learning experience, no matter if you're watching a video, reading an article, whatever it is, those things should be right there with you so that you can copy and paste things into them, ask them questions. I mean, some of them even help with translation, right? Like if you're a non-native English speaker and you're taking a course in English, you could say like, "Can you give this to me in Spanish?" And a lot of them can do that. So it's just really, I think, removing that friction barrier that a lot of people experience with old school learning and making it a more seamless experience, like we talked about today, and also giving them the confidence to answer questions in real time while they're, or excuse me, ask questions in real time while they're learning. Whereas a lot of people are kind of hesitant to do that in the real world. You know, nobody wants to raise their hand and say, I don't know
Yes.
this or I don't understand this. And these things are removing that friction from them. And I think ultimately that's a better learning experience because you're building the confidence of that person up. So when and if they do get into a group setting or a blended setting, their baseline level of understanding is almost the same as their peers. They feel more comfortable interacting and socializing and answering or asking questions in that setting as well.
It's it's really fascinating to kind of gaze into the future of AI and see where it's headed, you know, because we talked about this in the last episode too, and a lot of people are still apprehensive about it. But as long as you view it as an AI human collaboration, not a replacement, I think that's the game-changing perspective.
Yeah, I agree. It's not AI versus human. It's
Yeah.
AI plus human. Now, in some cases with learning, I think there will be aspects of learning that are AI versus human. Like for example, visualizing data. Like the AI can really take care of a lot of that for you. You don't have to download Excel spreadsheets anymore and then create pivot tables out of them or anything like that. The agentic AI things can, you know, run full reports for you, give them to you in nice, really beautiful charts and graphs, and then you take that and that's something like a deliverable for your manager or anybody else, right? And that's something we didn't have before. So I always tell people that are asking me about what type of automation are you thinking about for LMS platforms and whatnot. I always say I want to remove everything that people hate from it, and I want to let them focus on what they don't hate. And I think that's what we should make these AI tools do. It's very similar to like how Adobe's approached Photoshop, for example, right? The generative AI features in there, they really cut down on the time it takes to create a layer mask or something like that, which used to be a long process, especially if it was a complex selection. It's removing the friction of that, getting you to a point where then you can be the creative again without worrying about, oh, gosh, I missed this
The
eyelash
tedious,
or
yeah,
something,
yeah,
that kind of thing.
exactly.
And I think that's ultimately where I want it to sit. When I think about AI, is I want it to remove the things that bug me or that could be easily automated and taken off my plate so that I can do the things that I love. And what do I love? I love teaching. I love getting in the weeds with SMEs and figuring out, what the pain points of the learner could be. I love talking to the learners themselves. I like to build strategy for how to create learning for a specific problem. That's what I love to do. AI can offload a lot of things from my normal workflow and allow me to focus on those things now. And I think that's something that should be cheered by our industry, honestly, because we're going to get to a point where speed is going to be expected. And
Yeah.
learning is not something that's fast, especially learning development with all the reviews and everything you have to go through to get something approved and put out in front of even an internal employee pool versus a customer, like all that stuff. I think that we're going to be able to automate a lot of the things that slowed us down. We're going to be able to accelerate a lot of the things that we do personally, like, storyboards, voiceovers, things like that. That's all going to skyrocket. And it's going to lead to an exponentially faster way to produce learning so that we're always on top of it. You don't have to wait a year for the next version of this course to come out. It's going to come out in a few months right after the product gets updated, and it gives you more just in time learning, so your level of understanding is right there with everybody else. So I think that's really the way I'm looking at it, or the way that I choose to look at it. I know some people choose to look at it
I
as,
think it's a great way to look at it.
but I think there are people out there that love the doom and gloom. I'm not one of those people. I'm
No.
trying to see the silver lining and figure out ways that I can use it myself, which I think we all also have to understand. We're at V1 of AI right now. We're at
Yeah.
like iPhone, tiny iPhone from 2007 version of AI. Where is it going to be when we get to the iPhone, the big iPhone 16? Like, where is it going to be? I don't know. I'm really interested to see it, but I think that's why investing in it, and I don't mean money, I mean time and brain space. Investing in it and making sure that you're up to speed with it is going to be essential, especially over the next 5 years. Because if you don't have that baseline level of understanding, when these tools are bolted on to existing tools that you use now, you're going to be left behind. And that is the only way that AI is going to take your job away from you in most cases, is if you are incapable of interacting with and collaborating with it. And that is something that people really need to take seriously. You don't need to be afraid of it. You need to be very welcoming with it and move on.
It's been enlightening, Justin. As always, once again.
I'm sorry to get preachy
No,
about it, but
no. It's been great talking with you. And I hope to have you back again soon. I'm sure you'll be back soon again.
I would love to. Yeah. Thank you
Okay.
so much. I really appreciate it.
Another big thanks to Justin for coming back to speak with us today. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to learn more about Adobe Learning Manager, you can check out their site, which covers all their features. It'll also let you know how the platform can allow you to create even better learning experiences. And thank you, listener, for tuning in. Hope to see you back next time.